Hi everyone, thank you for tuning into the JPI's fundraising live stream. This is a quick reminder for you to click in the link in our description box below and donate to our COVID-19 crowdfunding campaign in association with Give India, Ujala and Uplift Foundation.
A leader par excellence, whether it was leading in high school or now through his phenomenal initiatives in Harvard consulting groups, Abhishek Milani has always been at the forefront of change. Abhishek is a junior at Harvard studying economics with a minor in computer science.
He is a board member in the Harvard College Consulting Group as well as a portfolio manager for Black Diamond Capital, a student hedge fund. He loves playing poker, hiking in national parks, and binge watching Netflix. Over to you, Divyansh.
So, Abhishek, I would definitely want to dive into your mind and, kind of get your view on something that I have been wanting to ask an academic studying at an amazing university. So, basically, Malcolm Gladwell, in a talk he gave in 2019, explained the concept of relative deprivation theory, wherein students' persistence in relatively more challenging degrees is a function of students' relative standing in their class. So, if a person is in the top quartile in the class of Harvard, let's say astrophysics degrees, so he'll feel more motivated to complete his degree, right? So he'll be more perseverant. So this is a trend seen in elite and normally ranked universities alike. This usually happens due to the lower quartiles of students developing imposter syndrome and getting discouraged, eventually leading them to quit their pursuit of their degrees, right? So, what are your thoughts on that? And how have you ever been in that position where you were just weighing yourself down or not self confident enough? And how can someone deal with that in a healthy way?
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. And it's definitely something I've seen with my friends here to a degree. I I think at least if you ground yourself in something you're passionate about, it's easier to get over this hump of, oh, I might not be the smartest person in the room. I might not even be close to the smartest person in the room. And then, like, you're learning for the sake of learning and you're not learning for a grade point average. And then when you're like thinking about it in that mindset, you're not thinking that, like, oh, I'm in the bottom quartile, maybe I should stop doing it. You're thinking, like, this is really cool. I might not have aced this exam, but I learned a lot and I want to continue learning. I think that is like the mindset you have to have going in. And it's a difficult mindset. And I think that's like a flaw in the education system at large. Like to get into a selective university, you are grinding on getting like good ACT, SAT scores, you're grinding on getting good IB scores. And everything is this like number. And you're not really valuing like, oh, did I actually enjoy the class? And that's something that I think is dangerous. I think at Harvard, for me at least, a lot of my friends are not in that boat. They don't really care about the grade point average. You're talking about the classes you're taking, and that's like more exciting. And so that's like the like way it should happen. But obviously, like that's idealistic, and like everyone to a degree compare themselves. I think the it was never in any class for me, but when I joined Black Diamond, so this is like a small like fund of I think like 20-25 Harvard kids. I joined my sophomore fall, so I was still pretty young. And when I was there, I just sat in our investment committees, and there were some really smart juniors and seniors like pitching good ideas, and I was like, this makes sense. I don't know if I can ever do this. I don't know like how they are doing this. And I very much felt like they're just a lot smarter than me. I don't really know why I'm here. And that was like that took that entire semester where I didn't really like contribute as much as I wish I could have. And it was just like me trying to like get over this hump. But for me, that like also pushed me to be like, I want to be that good. I want to spend that much time. So my entire winter, I decided that like I'm going to start my pitch that I want to do next semester and have several months to do it. This will like I might be taking more time, but at least like I can reach that caliber of pitch when I'm going into this group. And so like through things like that, and like just forcing myself to like try to execute, I got better myself. And now I feel like much more confident. I'm like happy I'm running my own team. We're all pitching together and I'm like helping grow the newer kids that are joining. And so like that's definitely like one of the areas where I struggled with at the beginning and still am struggling with, but I'm much more confident in my ability now.
I love how you mention how being grounded can help, because there's this really famous saying that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably in the wrong room, right?
Yeah.
And that definitely helps put that into perspective. I think Krish has a question.
So, talking about your journey from your high school to Harvard, could you tell us three things, or maybe more, three specific things that you learned that any textbook or book cannot teach you? A small hint to you. Maybe India, Monopoly, and Lakhan sir would refresh your memory.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to start with like Monopoly, even with like my bio, I love playing poker, Monopoly, any kind of like board game or card game. And I think it's really cool to see like, oh, you have all these like theories that you might learn of like how to optimally play. Except until you like actually like play the game, like you don't learn. And then you like learn some additional tricks. I don't know, like an easy example for me, which is neither of those two. If you're like thinking about Uno, I think it's a game everyone like knows to some degree, and let's assume you can like stack numbers that are the same. So if you have like three threes, you can put them all down at the same time. When I first started playing, I would be like, oh, great, I have a lot of the same number. I'll put them all down. But then, like, as you play more and more, I realized people start targeting you when you have low numbers of cards because you're close to winning. So what you want to do potentially is hold on to all those cards of the same number so it looks like you have a lot. But then in any one turn, you can maybe play five of them down and win automatically. So these are like those weird small things that like for me it's just like you have to play the game and really appreciate the game in order to like learn these things. So that's definitely like one thing, and I really value those experiences. And then like Krishna, you mentioned India has been like a phenomenal like way to just grow as a person and learn a lot, because I think you're just getting a different perspective, and that's one thing I think college in general is really good at. You're bringing people from all different backgrounds and you're trying to like put them in one place, so you're learning from other people's lived experiences. And for me, like coming to India, like one thing that was really exciting was like how connected everyone is. Like everyone is spending time with their friends constantly, like going to family friends places or like doing things like that, versus in the US, like that happens, but to a much lesser degree. And I mean, like, so like, you get to learn a lot of the like good things about like the countries, but you also like learn like where are things that you realize and you value more about like where you're from. And like even like now and like the pandemic, like the idea of being so well connected is also like why like India is like suffering a lot right now. And I think like having like some infrastructure and like having better support like what you guys are doing today is like incredibly important, because of the way like everything is structured. Like you need to like have more help, and like a lot of the countries like giving access to more vaccines, it seems like no brainers. And I think like until you like live in a place and appreciate that place for a little bit, like it's a lot harder to do that. And I like really hope things start to change in that regard. But finally, like I guess going to last thing is something similar to what I was like talking to Divyansh about with like the relative deprivation theory. It's like surrounding yourself with people who are very passionate. And so like this for me was like Lakhan sir, but it was also like my friends and like everyone I've like I think like been around. There, not everyone is like passionate about the same thing. Like I really like this intersection of like economics and like statistics and data science. I think it's really cool. And other people, like even my like friends from high school, some of them are really into politics or into like European soccer. Lakhan sir was really into like computer science. And like being around those people and just learning from them, it one like makes you like appreciate different things. Like he is the one who taught me like computer science when I knew nothing, and like I really appreciate that, because having a teacher who actually cares and like makes you excited about things is like why I'm still excited about it today. But like also like even if he's like computer science isn't like necessarily like my like diehard passion, right? But it's something I really love. And when I see someone like push for something they really love, I want to like pursue what I love. And like that is I think really important. And it's not like something a book will tell you like, oh, like it's pretty obvious, like if you like something, do it and do it well. But like it's much easier to do that when you see all your friends and the people you're around, they are doing something that they love. That makes you want to like push to find what you do.
You're articulating these answers so well. It's just we can lose track of time listening to you talk. But you mentioning the nitty gritty techniques that you use to just do well in normal games actually segues perfectly to my next question to you, which is about the MIT blackjack story, which went viral when a team of MIT and Harvard students made millions in the casinos of Las Vegas using card counting techniques by employing like, complex mathematical logic or something. And I've heard that you're also fascinated with applying math to, just rigged poker games, among other things. So what is your take on that? And, how do you connect academics with just trivial real life situations?
Yeah, I mean, I guess to start with that story, I definitely like realistic. I think it's kind of telling of how data oriented the world has gotten. The reason I think you could have done that then in counting cards, like there's like complicated ways to do it. There's also really easy ways to do it where you just use simple like an account like number like addition subtraction techniques. And so like back then, I think when this was happening, a lot of people didn't know that. There was a long time, even in like poker's history, when people thought that a straight was less common than a flush. So a straight was valued higher. They like really like ran through just like empirically and realized, oh wait, a flush is more unlikely. That should be a higher thing. And so there's like a lot of changes that are happening. So people who early on could employ like data science to whatever degree, I think they make a lot of money. And like you've seen that in how the world has innovated. Uh, in terms of like using these kinds of techniques, I love them in terms of like just like appreciating them. So for poker, if you guys are avid fans, like you can think about like game theory optimal poker. There's usually like a really good way to know like how much to bet, what is like check raising in terms of like getting people out and making the most expected value. And that's like pretty well studied. But then like you can like have your own deviation. So at Harvard, even when I play poker, I have friends who are a lot better than me, but they'll play like game theory optimal. But for me, I like playing, and I think Ayuster too, he likes playing, I played with him a lot of exploitative poker. So this is like where you're not playing necessarily optimally, but you're playing to another person's like strengths and weaknesses. And so like this is like a really cool way I think to play. It's more enjoyable for me, and like considering like poker is more of a hobby, like I like playing like that. And then like I think the last part of your question was like how you apply to the real world, right? And so here, like, I think the biggest thing for me, the one I value the most, are projects. And that has been really phenomenal, even in Harvard and like before. Like taking things you've learned in classes and just like executing on them. To like start in high school, one of the coolest things we did in my one of my physics classes was we built a boat out of duct tape and cardboard only, and we competed in a competition with all other high schools in our state to see who can like run a course as fast as you can. So like this was like we had a limited amount of materials, and you wanted to figure out what the like optimal like boat size would be so you'd have the most buoyancy and also like least water leakage. Like it wasn't entirely academic, but we got to like mix the two and see like here's how it'll work in real life. Like when you're looking at physics and thinking like you don't really account for air resistance and things like that. It's not like we did this to a great degree in like building a boat, but when you're building an actual project, you have to, because that's the real world. And then like even at like Harvard, right now I'm in an optimizations class at MIT. Actually, I've cross-registered for the semester, and my final project is trying to figure out the optimal betting strategy in Final Jeopardy. And so this is like a mixed strategy game theory of like how much money does this the other person have, how much money do you have, what are your chances of getting the problems right. It's not a terribly difficult problem to solve, but it's like a really fun one to solve because now you can like see it in real life when you're playing along on the TV show, being like, here's how much I think you should bet. And like when you start thinking about processes like this, I think you start making more logical and optimal like decisions yourself.
Wonderfully put. Wonderfully put. Absolutely.
So one question I have for you is about the rising tuition cost in America and in colleges all around the world. It's students get demoralized, discouraged by how much their dream college actually costs, and some people aren't able to apply to certain colleges. Had this happened with you? Did Harvard provide financial aid to you? And how do you keep in control of all the money that you spend in your college and all the money that you take into account?
Yeah. I mean, okay, to start, I think college sucks for one reason. Uh, if you're like going to like, I think like a mid-tier college, or even like I think any college that doesn't have a large endowment, things are very difficult. Like, you just don't. I have like a lot of friends who are going to like either like state colleges or colleges again that don't have a lot of and they just could not get a lot of like financial aid or grants. A lot of these were loans which they have to pay back, And as you guys know, the student loan crisis is pretty bad. I was very lucky at Harvard. They have a very generous financial aid program. So it was actually more economical to go to Harvard than to go to my state university because they're willing to give financial aid and they have the capacity to do so. I don't think other places necessarily do, and thus I very much value that at Harvard. And so it's definitely difficult. And I think it's you have to think about it as an investment in yourself, and you need to like make that like decision yourself. I don't necessarily think college is the right decision for everyone. I think it is for a lot of people if like they have like something that they're like some goal in life that needs this. But looking at that yourself and just really thinking about that is important. In terms of like budgeting and things according to that, for me, it's always been very easy. I just have a spreadsheet that I always make every semester where I just like mark every expense I've ever made. I like build out like what is the category, like is this for fun, is this for classes, is this food, like I'm living in an apartment this semester, so like there's groceries which is like part of like home supplies for me. And so like that I can like track like how long do I plan on being here. So if I'm like here for 3 months and I've spent like a week and I've spent like X amount, I can kind of extrapolate what is my projected spend for the semester. And so things like that like help me keep into check like my spending habits and making sure I'm not going overboard. And I think that's been very helpful for me. But also just like taking advantage of all the programs you have. This like kind of comes back to the cost, right? If you're paying like X amount in tuition, like you should really make sure you're going to your classes and you're really like enjoying your classes and you're doing things outside of that. There's a lot of great programs at most colleges. There's so many at Harvard that I love where like you have like really great speakers coming in. I got to talk to Richard Thaler the like other week. Yeah, he came to Harvard and like I got to like just ask him a bunch of questions about like his thoughts on like both COVID but also like how like the healthcare system is broken. And like those are things I won't get anywhere else, and I want to make sure I make the most of that.
Richard Thaler is one of my idols. He's the founder of behavioral economics, and that's just it's mind blowing that Bharat provides you with such opportunities to connect with the like foremost intellectuals of the world, and that's something elite universities have as a unique selling point to them, right? But Abhishek, all of us know about a Harvard success story, right? Like almost everyone can fathom how someone extraordinarily smart or prodigious in their pursuit can excel at whatever they do and just land a good college, but it's often not that simple. uh, it would be healthier for people to know about the challenges and the failure one faces while going through that journey. Could you reflect and tell us about certain roadblocks you have faced or are facing, and how you potentially just try to actually solve them, or at least bypass them, to say the least?
Yeah, I guess starting from high school, early college, a big like something that always weighed on me is when you're very, I guess, like academically oriented or things like that, a lot of times people like build this image around who you are and they try to like silo you into like, oh, you're the person who really likes getting good grades and that is all you are. And I think like that was like interesting for me. It's some I didn't want to be siloed into that. I also want to be known as like person who really likes like spending time with people, person who really likes playing games, person who's really good at them. Like things like that are like things that I thought were lost in like my personality or my of who I am early on, which I wanted to make sure didn't happen. And so I think like actively like going out of my way and like making sure like people knew me outside of just like does well in classes or things like that was like valuable and something I like took into like going into like coming into like my first year at college, making sure like that was like part of who I am. And to a large part I realized it didn't really matter. Like my closest friends are the people who really like matter to me and they knew who I was. So like that was a big part of like I just stopped caring as much, which was like valuable. And then in terms of like roadblocks at Harvard, I think the biggest one I can think about is my freshman year. I Everyone thinks that once you get to Harvard, oh, everything's kind of set up and like you just kind of like go through like the normal schedule and like you'll pop out and you'll like either do something really cool, make a lot of money, like XYZ. But I applied to 63 different internships my freshman summer, got rejected from 61 of them, and it was like rough. I was just like, I'm confused. Like, what do I need to do? It was like the weird paradox I think that a lot of people will face, and I've talked to a lot of like my like younger friends. Is you apply to a place and they're like, oh, we'd love if you have work experience, and I'm like, I'll never get work experience if everyone wants work experience. And I was like, I need someone to like give me a chance before I don't have anything to like justify like, yes, I've done this before, because I haven't, but I want to do it more. And so that was like tough for me. And yeah, I just was. Took a long time to get over that. And like the two places I got like they like gave me a chance were not like the first two places. They were the last two places I applied to, which is why I applied to so many. But I ended up doing a lot of like really cool research on like early education and like the value thereof, and like trying to like embed like this like pre-kindergarten like infrastructure as part of a universal like education plan in the United States. That was my first like real experience in research. I was with a really cool mentor. She's doing a lot of great work for like Maryland, which is where like the Washington D.C. is like more or less in. And so that was like a great experience for me, but it was a huge learning experience of being like, it's okay to be rejected. I think like a lot of kids, and like especially like me too, like it wasn't necessarily used to like that much rejection. It's just like also like I don't think you ever applied to that many things like in high school. I just like I liked the club, so I just joined the club. And so like that was it. Once you like got into college in the real world, there's like, oh, like you can't just do anything you want, which like I disagree with. I think you still can, but it's like much more difficult, and being like okay with like for sometimes by random chance you just won't get it, and just like, moving on from that was like important, and that was like a big like learning experience for me.
That's absolutely awe-inspiring. Actually, it gives a lot of perspective to someone like me who actually idealizes students like you who get into elite universities, and just it's very reassuring to know that everyone is prone to failures at some point in their life, and it's just innately human to at least encounter that at one point in time. But as much as I would actually love just keep talking to you, we sadly have run out of the time. And I think Abhishek also, we just want to thank Abhishek for uh, just sparing his time to talk to us about his experiences and his journey. And we definitely look forward to having him soon again. And
Divyansh, I think we have 7 minutes. We can use them to the full. One quick question for you. If you had to invest in the Indian economy as of now, with the COVID crisis going on, which business sector would you invest in? Which type of business would you invest in?
This is interesting, Chris. I've always been like a very big growth slash tech investor, and I guess like networks have been the most exciting to me. I know this isn't like this is a private company, but like the Facebook investment into like WhatsApp, I think that is like phenomenal. I think any kinds of those platforms, they're like very easy to like go big, very easy to fail, but investing in that sector, I think is like incredibly useful, just because there's so much you can get. India, like again, like I said, like what I learned from like being here, one of the things was everyone is so well connected, and being able to like use that to both spread information, do like speed up logistical processes. Like I think that would be like really exciting, and like investing in that sector as a whole, I think there's a lot of great things like both on like one because of the pandemic. You can think on the public health side. I like one thing I also want to urge everyone, like reading about like what's actually happening and what are like the best health practices, I think are really important. I don't think a lot of people have done that, and there's a lot of misinformation on like what are the safe things to do if you like know someone who like has contracted COVID, or like how long do you have to wait in like quarantine period. I don't think that is as clear as people as I hope it would have been. And so like reading things like that and spreading like good news, really important in any kind of like network effect, any kind of like platform, and especially like a tech platform. But then you're thinking like on logistics. One thing I like another thing I learned from like my time in India is like packages take a long time to get delivered relative to like other places in like US. Like a cool thing could be like if you and your friend are in a close place, you're both like ordering things like and you're comfortable with each other, like package them together, like save like reduce the number of boxes you ship and increase the speed at which they ship. It's kind of like an Uber idea but with like package delivery, and you have like a lot of other like cool ideas that you can do if you like buy into a platform. And I think that's like where I'd want to invest because I think there's a lot of growth opportunity there in India.
Since we have you for a little longer, Abhishek, I would definitely want to ask you, if you were given unlimited resources, what is one global problem you would definitely solve?
Education. I think like this is like kind of like harbors back to like earlier things I was telling you about. I think I still fundamentally believe education is the like best way to improve someone's outcome and to like promote equality. And I've like always like played this exercise like with my friends in the terms of like what do you think happens to the world if everyone has the same like baseline education? Because this is very much not true, obviously. People uh, who have a lot of wealth coming in and like a lot of opportunity, they can like learn different things in different sports that other people cannot, and they can like spend time getting extra help where other people cannot. I think if everyone had the same high level of like education ability, whether that be through like with the like extra money I have, like paying teachers a better wage, so you promote this as like being a teacher is a really valuable like profession, but a lot of times they aren't paid accordingly. But if you can, like more people will become teachers, you'll have higher quality teachers, and then you're like really like pushing an entire like generation into a much better place. It's a weird problem to choose in the sense that I think the fruits of investing in education do take longer than yeah than something else you invest in. But I think like the like if you think like the IRR of it is much higher in my opinion.
I absolutely agree with you. And the point about Bill Gates actually informing the public about how how education about sexual education, how it can be good to have protection and whatnot, can actually solve a lot of population crises in a lot of third world countries, which can directly transfer to climate change, and which is one of the biggest problems anyway. So that can always help prevailing problems already getting solved by the issue of education being solved and quickly fixed.
Mhm.
But that is definitely a long way to go. And as much as we would like to hold on to you and just talk to you more, Abhishek, we have actually run out of time now. And thank you so much for sparing your time and talking to us about your journey and experiences. And we really hope that you will be here soon. And I just would like to, I just would like if Krish would remind the audience to donate.
And so, guys, as Divyansh said, a quick reminder thank you for tuning into JPR's fundraising live stream. This is a quick reminder for you to click the link in our description box below and donate to our COVID 19 crowdfunding campaign in association with Give India, Uplift, and Ojala Foundation. Thank you, Abhishek, so much. We would want you for more time next time. So, please come
Of
again.
course. And thank you guys for doing this. This is like truly like amazing to see like you guys like taking charge of a situation and like really trying to help. And I'm very excited to see like more initiatives like this and really like even beyond this pandemic and getting over that and like helping in like other realms as well. But thank you so much for having me and thank you so much for doing this.